The shot that changed everything. The forest was alive with silence, not the peaceful silence of a calm night, but the heavy kind that presses against your skin, makes every breath feel thick and every shadow seem alive. Jason crouched behind a fallen log, muscles tense, eyes scanning the inky blackness beyond the faint moonlight filtering through the leaves. The only sound was the rhythmic pounding of his heart and the distant whistle of the wind threading through the trees. His fingers gripped the cold metal of the rifle, knuckles white. He was deep in territory no one dared to enter after dusk, a place marked on no map and whispered about in hushed tones by locals as cursed or haunted. Yet here he was. Why? Because people were vanishing. Livestock, too. Strange howls echoed, nightly, sending waves of terror through the nearby villages. Rumors told of a beast, something unnatural, stalking the woods. The village council had given up, but Jason couldn't. He had to see it for himself, to stop it. The night shifted. Something moved in the clearing ahead. At first it was just a flicker, a blur of motion in the dark. Then it stepped into the moonlight, and Jason's breath caught in his throat. This was no ordinary animal. It was tall, unnaturally so, with limbs that seemed too long and slender to belong to any creature he'd seen. Its skin was smooth and wet-looking, almost translucent, veins pulsing faintly beneath the surface like an alien map. No fur, no feathers, no scales. Something else entirely. Its head was narrow, with two large black eyes that absorbed the light, reflecting nothing back. There was something hauntingly human in those eyes, yet impossible. The forest around Jason seemed to shrink away as the creature took a cautious step forward, nostrils flaring as if sensing him. Jason's hand twitched, and before his mind could fully process the moment, he squeezed the trigger. The rifle cracked, a sharp echoing report that tore through the night. The creature stumbled. A low, strangled sound escaped its throat. Not an animal's growl, but a human-like gasp. It fell to its knees, chest heaving, eyes wide and desperate. Jason froze, shock rooting him in place. He expected rage, fear, death. But what came next shattered everything he believed. The creature slowly turned its head, locking eyes with him. And then, in a voice so soft, so fragile it barely reached his ears, it whispered, "Why? Did you hurt me?" The words hung in the air like a spell. Jason's grip on the rifle faltered, and it slipped from his trembling hands, thudding against the earth. His mind spun. He blinked, sure it was some hallucination, a trick of exhaustion and fear, but the creature's gaze held steady, raw, and pleading. "I didn't mean to." Jason's voice cracked. The creature's shoulders shuddered with pain, but it managed a faint, sad smile. Danger, only when misunderstood. Jason swallowed hard, emotions crashing over him. Fear warred with confusion and a strange, unexpected compassion. The beast was not a beast. The forest held its breath. Jason knelt slowly, wary but unable to resist the pull of empathy. The creature's skin was cool to the touch, almost like silk stretched over delicate bones. Its breath was shallow, ragged, and pain marked every movement. "We need to get you out of here," Jason said softly, eyes scanning for threats. "Can you walk?" The creature nodded weakly. Using his jacket, Jason fashioned a sling to support the creature's injured side. It leaned heavily on him, limping through the dense underbrush toward a small cave he'd spotted earlier. The silence between them was thick. No words, only unspoken questions. As they reached the cave, Jason helped the creature inside, setting it down gently on a bed of leaves. He pulled out his flashlight, the beam revealing sharp, delicate features beneath that smooth skin. A face that was painfully beautiful, with high cheekbones and lips that trembled with exhaustion. "I don't know who you are," Jason admitted. "But I won't let anything happen to you." The creature's dark eyes searched his. Name, lost, home, far. Jason's mind reeled. Aliens, the stories weren't just myths. Something real, something beyond his wildest nightmares and dreams was sitting in front of him. The hours dragged on. Jason kept watch, half listening to the strange, broken words the creature whispered, trying to explain itself. Its voice was soft, filled with a sorrow that pierced Jason's heart. It spoke of a home light years away, a world where beings like it lived in harmony, exploring the stars. But fear and hatred from others had driven it to run, fleeing through the void of space to this lonely, forgotten forest. Jason found himself wanting to believe it, to believe in the impossible. But the forest was not kind to outsiders. In the distance, a howl shattered the fragile peace, a long, bone-chilling sound that sent shivers down Jason's spine. The creature's eyes widened. "Hunters, come!" Jason's heart raced. Hunters? Who? Humans? Something worse. He gripped the creature's hand, their fingers intertwining in a silent promise. "We'll face them. Together." Suddenly, movement crackled through the underbrush. Quick, deliberate footsteps closing in. Jason's rifle was back in his hands in a heartbeat. The cave's entrance was barely hidden, and the forest beyond was no longer quiet. The hunters were close. Shadows shifted, figures barely visible, but unmistakably armed. Jason raised his voice. "Stay behind me!" The creature nodded, its eyes fierce with fear and trust. The first hunter stepped into the moonlight. A tall man, face hardened by years of survival. His eyes flicked to the wounded creature with cold calculation. Jason's blood ran cold. These were no villagers. "They're after you," Jason whispered, voice heavy with dread. The hunter raised his weapon. "You don't know what you're dealing with." Jason stepped forward, rifle steady. "Neither do you." Cliffhanger. Suddenly, the forest exploded into chaos. Shots rang out, branches snapped, and the creature rose unsteadily to its feet. It looked at Jason, a whisper barely audible. "Trust me." And then everything changed. Trust in the shadows. The forest erupted in a storm of movement and noise. Jason's heart hammered so fiercely he could almost hear it in his ears, drowning out everything but the rush of adrenaline. Shots rang out, echoing through the dense trees like thunder, and the underbrush crackled beneath heavy footsteps. Jason stayed rooted for a moment, firing carefully toward the figures advancing. The hunters, whoever they were skilled, moving with a ruthless precision that told Jason they'd been here before, chasing something or someone they were determined to capture or kill. The creature, wounded but not defeated, stumbled. Upright beside him, a strange aura glowing faintly from beneath its skin, an eerie blue shimmer pulsing with every breath. Jason blinked, struggling to understand what he was seeing. It wasn't just a helpless alien, it was something more. "Move!" The creature hissed urgently, its voice sharper now, commanding, still tinged with pain. Jason didn't hesitate. Supporting the creature, he pushed through the undergrowth toward a narrow ravine he'd spotted earlier. A natural trench carved by years of rain, hidden beneath thick vines and shadow. If they could reach it, they might have a chance. Behind them, the hunters shouted orders, their footsteps growing closer. Jason gritted his teeth, his muscles screaming in protest as he half-carried, half-supported the creature. The wound on its side oozed dark blood, and it gasped, face pale but eyes fierce. "Why do they want you?" Jason asked between breaths. The creature's jaw clenched. "Because I hold the key to a secret, too dangerous for them." Jason's mind raced. What kind of secret? What did this mysterious being know or possess that made it a target? They plunged into the ravine, plunging into darkness, broken only by Jason's trembling flashlight beam. The walls were slick with moss, and the air was thick and damp. They moved cautiously, the sound of the hunters fading behind them. For a moment the forest's oppressive silence returned, broken only by the creature's shallow breathing and Jason's hurried steps. Who are you? Jason whispered, barely. Daring to break the fragile quiet, the creature hesitated, then spoke softly, voice trembling like a thread pulled too tight. My name is Lyra. Jason nodded, trying to commit the name to memory. Lyra, what secret do you carry? Why are they hunting you? Lyra's eyes flickered, pain and sorrow mingling there. I come from a distant world, a world where peace was shattered by greed and fear. I was part of a mission to protect knowledge, knowledge that could change everything. Jason's brows furrowed. What kind of knowledge? Lyra's voice dropped to a whisper, almost reverent. A map to the source of life beyond stars, to a power that could heal or destroy. Jason's breath caught. It sounded like something out of the old sci-fi novels, but here it was, raw, real and desperate. Your people, they want this power? Jason asked. No, others do. Those who hunt me want to take it, control it, use it to dominate. Jason's mind flashed to the hunters outside, ruthless and unrelenting. We have to get you somewhere safe, he said firmly. Lyra nodded, trying to stand taller, but pain forced her down again. No time. They will find us. They always find. Jason's jaw tightened. Then we fight, together. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the ravine, not human, but something deeper, more primal. Jason spun, rifle raised, as glowing eyes emerged from the shadows. A pack of strange creatures, large, wolf-like, but with strange, bioluminescent markings, prowled toward them, teeth bared and snarling. Jason's grip tightened. Great. Now what? Lyra's eyes widened. Not. They're enemies. Protectors. Jason blinked, lowering the rifle slightly in confusion. The creatures paused, noses twitching as they approached Lyra, then settled around her protectively. Why? Jason asked. Lyra looked at the glowing pack, a faint smile touching her lips despite the pain. Because they know me. We share a bond, guardians of the balance. Jason's mind spun. Not only was Lyra alien, she had some kind of connection with these creatures, creatures he could barely comprehend. Okay, Jason said slowly, feeling the weight of the moment. We're in deeper than I thought. As the creatures formed, a circle around them, the forest seemed to hold its breath again. The hunters had not given up. Their voices were distant but growing louder. Jason knew time was running out. We need a plan, he muttered. Lyra nodded. There is a place, an old refuge, hidden from the stars, but we must move fast. Jason glanced at the creatures, their eyes gleaming with quiet intelligence and strength. Then let's go. They moved quickly, Jason leading the way through twisted roots and thick brush, Lyra leaning heavily on him. The glowing creatures flanked them, moving silently like shadows come to life. The journey was grueling, every step a test of endurance. Jason's mind was a storm of questions about Lyra, the hunters, the secret map, and the strange bond she shared with these creatures. At one point Lyra stopped, gasping. Jason steadied her, worry etching deep lines on his face. You shouldn't push so hard, he said gently. Lyra's dark eyes met his. No choice. If I fall, they take the secret. The balance breaks. Jason swallowed hard, the weight of responsibility settling heavily on him. This was no longer just a hunt. It was survival, for Lyra, for whatever secret she carried, and perhaps for humanity itself. After what felt like hours, the forest began to thin. Ahead, nestled in a clearing, was a small structure, ancient and weathered, almost swallowed by vines and time. Jason approached cautiously, rifle raised. Lyra stepped forward, her voice a soft chant as she touched the walls. The refuge, she said. Inside, the air was cool and still. Jason's flashlight revealed walls covered in strange symbols, a language unknown, glowing faintly with a light that seemed alive. This place, Lyra said, was built by my people long ago. A sanctuary, a hiding place. Jason's eyes scanned the room. He noticed a small pedestal in the center, and resting on it was a crystal, pulsing with light, mesmerizing in its beauty. Lyra moved toward it, fingers trembling as she reached out. "This is what they seek," she whispered. "The key, the power." Suddenly, the sound of movement outside snapped Jason's attention back to the present. The hunters had followed them. Jason grabbed Lyra's hand, pulling her behind the pedestal as the door burst open. The lead hunter stormed in, rifle trained. On them, "Hand it over." Jason stood firm, anger boiling inside. "You don't understand what this is," the hunter sneered. "I understand enough to know you're all fools." Suddenly, Lyra stepped forward, crystal glowing brighter in her hands. "No, the fools are those who seek to control what they cannot comprehend." A surge of energy pulsed from the crystal, filling the room with blinding light. Jason shielded his eyes, heart pounding. When the light faded, the hunters were gone, vanished without a trace. Lyra collapsed, exhausted, but alive. Jason knelt beside her, overwhelmed. "What just happened?" Lyra smiled weakly. "The power protects itself. The secret chooses its guardians." Jason looked at her, the reality sinking in. This was not just an alien on the run. This was something beyond anything he had ever imagined, and now he was part of it. Cliffhanger. As they caught their breath, a faint sound echoed from the crystal. A voice, whispering in a language Jason couldn't understand, and then, clear as day, a single word resonated in his mind: "Awaken." Awakening the hidden. The word echoed in Jason's mind. Awaken. It wasn't spoken aloud, but it resonated deep inside, vibrating with a strange power that left him breathless. Jason blinked, his gaze locked on the glowing crystal resting on the pedestal, its soft pulses now rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The dim light in the refuge flickered, casting shadows that danced across the walls, covered in alien script. Lyra stirred beside him, eyes heavy, but her voice firm. "It's time. The secret isn't just a map or a power. It's something far greater. A link between worlds, a bridge for those who seek harmony, but also a weapon for those who seek destruction." Jason's mind struggled to grasp the scale of what she meant. The hunters outside wanted this crystal, this secret, enough to risk everything. But why? What made this artifact so dangerous? The door to the refuge creaked as the bioluminescent creatures who had guarded them earlier pressed their noses against the entrance, alert and protective. Jason stood, moving toward the doorway. "We can't stay here forever. They'll come back." Lyra nodded slowly. "We must prepare. The crystal has chosen us to protect its knowledge, but also to awaken its true purpose." "Awaken? What does that mean?" Jason asked, stepping closer. Lyra raised a trembling hand, and the crystal's light brightened, illuminating her face. "This crystal is part of an ancient network, a web connecting planets, civilizations, life itself. When activated, it reveals the truth of existence, the unity beneath all beings." Jason felt a chill run down his spine. "So it's like a cosmic revelation." "Exactly." Lyra's eyes shone with hope and fear. "But only those pure of heart and purpose can awaken it. Others seek to twist its power for control and domination." Jason clenched his fists. "Then we can't let them get it." Suddenly, a low rumble shook the refuge. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the walls vibrated ominously. The crystal's glow intensified, sending waves of light swirling around the room. Jason staggered, bracing himself against the pedestal. Lyra grasped his arm, steadying him. "What's happening?" he gasped. Lyra's voice was urgent. "The awakening has begun. We must focus. Let the crystal guide us." Jason closed his eyes, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He reached out and lightly touched the crystal's surface. A surge of energy shot through him. Visions flooded his mind. He saw stars collapsing and birthing new worlds, civilizations rising and falling, countless lives connected by invisible threads. He glimpsed battles for survival, moments of peace, and a vast cosmic balance. Among the visions, he saw Lyra's world, a beautiful planet torn apart by war and greed, her people desperate to protect the secret from falling into the wrong. And he saw the Hunters, a shadowy faction bent on harnessing the crystal's power for their own gain. Then, a final image. A shining city among the stars, a place called the Nexus, where all knowledge converged. Jason gasped, pulling back. What was that? Lyra's eyes filled with tears. The Nexus is where the secret's power can be fully realized. It is our hope and our salvation. Jason struggled to steady himself. The visions had shown him so much, yet raised more questions than answers. How do we get there? He asked. Lyra looked toward the door. We must journey beyond this forest, beyond our world, but first we must survive. Outside, the forest was eerily quiet. Jason peered through the cracked door, spotting no immediate threat, but the Hunters wouldn't give up easily. Suddenly, a distant sound shattered the stillness, a low mechanical hum growing louder. Jason's eyes widened. They're here. Lyra moved swiftly, grabbing a worn satchel from a dusty shelf. We can't fight them all, but I have something that might help. She pulled out a small device, sleek, metallic, humming softly. This is a beacon. It can summon aid, but it will also reveal our position. Jason frowned. Is that a risk we have to take? Yes, Lyra said firmly. If we don't act now, everything will be lost. They stepped cautiously outside, the glowing creatures flanking them like silent guardians. The forest seemed to hold its breath again as shadows moved in the distance. From the trees, armored figures emerged. The Hunters, weapons raised, their leader stepping forward. A cold smile playing on his lips. You won't escape, he said, voice cutting through the air. Jason tightened his grip on his rifle. We're not running. The leader's gaze flicked to the glowing crystal in Lyra's hand. That artifact belongs to us. Hand it over. Lyra shook her head. It belongs to no one. It belongs to all. The leader laughed, a harsh sound. Then prepare to lose it. Without warning, the Hunters advanced. Jason fired, taking down one of the attackers. The glowing creatures charged, snarling and striking with ferocious speed. Chaos erupted, shots rang out, creatures and Hunters clashed, the forest alive with violence. Jason fought with desperate strength, protecting Lyra as she moved toward a clearing. Amid the battle, she activated the beacon. A sudden beam of light shot into the sky, piercing the canopy like a flare. Moments later, a fleet of strange ships appeared above the forest, sleek and shimmering. Unlike anything Jason had ever seen, they descended. Rapidly, weapons aimed at the Hunters. The Hunters froze, caught between Jason's group and the new arrivals. A powerful voice boomed from one of the ships. This is the Vanguard. Stand down immediately. The Hunters hesitated, then reluctantly lowered their weapons. Jason exhaled in relief. The Vanguard ships landed, and from them emerged soldiers, tall, clad in advanced armor, their presence commanding. The Vanguard commander approached Jason. And Lyra, you have awakened the beacon, the commander said gravely. You are under our protection now. Lyra nodded, exhausted but grateful. Jason looked at the commander. Who are you? Why did you come? The commander's eyes were steady. We are guardians of the Nexus. We have been watching, waiting for those chosen to protect the secret. Jason swallowed hard. Chosen? Yes. The crystal chose you both, and through the beacon we have come to aid you. Jason glanced at Lyra, who was visibly relieved, but questions still burned in his mind. What happens now? The commander looked to the glowing crystal. Now we prepare for the journey to the Nexus, where the secret will be revealed and its power tested. Jason nodded slowly, feeling the weight of their mission settle upon him. "This is bigger than any of us imagined," he said quietly. Lyra smiled faintly. "And it's only just beginning." As night fell, the refuge filled with new life. The vanguard soldiers, the glowing creatures, and Jason and Lyra united by a shared purpose. Jason sat by the crystal, pondering the visions and the path. Ahead, he realized that the universe was far more complex and interconnected than he had ever known, and whatever awaited them at the Nexus, it would change everything. Cliffhanger. Suddenly, Jason's communicator crackled to life with a cryptic message: "Beware the shadow within. Not all allies are true." Jason's blood ran cold as he exchanged a wary glance with Lyra. Who could he trust? And what shadows lurked in the path ahead? Shadows among light. Jason sat motionless, the cryptic message still ringing in his ears. "Beware the shadow within. Not all allies are true." The words felt like a knife slicing through the fragile hope they'd just gained. His eyes darted toward Lyra, whose face was bathed in the soft glow of the crystal. She met his gaze, calm yet concerned. "We need to be careful," she said quietly. "The journey to the Nexus isn't just dangerous because of those who hunt us. There are others, hidden dangers, even among those who claim to protect us." Jason swallowed hard. The vanguard soldiers had arrived like saviors, but now doubt gnawed at him. How well did they really know this mission? Were they truly guardians or something else? The following morning, the forest was alive with preparation. The vanguard soldiers moved with purpose, setting up advanced equipment, scanning for threats beyond the visible. Jason shadowed the commander, a tall, imposing figure named Commander Tal. His armor gleamed under the filtered sunlight, but his eyes held a hardness Jason found unsettling. "We'll be leaving in hours," Tal said, voice low. "The path to the Nexus is fraught with peril. You and Lyra must be ready." Jason nodded. "And the hunters? We've slowed them down for now, but they will not give up easily." Lyra approached Jason, holding a small device shaped like a compass. "This will help us navigate the Nexus's shifting corridors. It reacts to the crystal's energy." Jason took it, feeling the cool metal pulse softly in his palm. "Feels like we're carrying the weight of worlds." She smiled sadly. "Maybe we are." As the day wore on, Jason couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The soldiers moved with mechanical precision, but there was tension beneath their disciplined exterior. He noticed whispered conversations, sideways glances exchanged like silent warnings. During a brief rest, Jason caught a fragment of conversation between two soldiers. "Tal's orders are strict. No one questions the mission. Too strict." "I don't like where this is going." Jason's heart pounded. Was there dissent among the vanguard, or worse, a hidden agenda? That night, Jason lay awake under a canopy of alien stars, the crystal glowing faintly beside him. He glanced over at Lyra, who seemed lost in thought. "We can't trust everyone," Jason said softly. Lyra nodded. "Trust must be earned, especially here. The Nexus will test us in ways we cannot predict." Jason's communicator beeped quietly. He grabbed it and opened the message, a coded sequence that made no sense at first glance. "Help me decode this," he whispered to Lyra. Together, they worked through the night, unraveling the message. It was a warning from an unknown source within the vanguard. Tal is not what he seems. He seeks the crystal's power for himself. Beware. Jason's blood ran cold. He looked at Lyra, eyes wide with alarm. "We have to warn the others." Lyra shook her head. "We can't trust anyone yet. We must watch and wait." The next morning, the vanguard troops assembled to begin the journey to the Nexus. Jason and Lyra stood among them, the crystal safely secured in a protective case. As they moved deeper into the forest, the landscape changed. Trees twisted into impossible shapes, and the air shimmered with unseen energy. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, and a fissure opened, revealing a glowing tunnel spiraling downward. "This is the gateway to the Nexus," Commander Tal announced. Jason's eyes narrowed. He noticed a subtle smirk on Tal's face, barely concealed. They descended into the tunnel, the walls pulsing with an eerie light. The crystal's glow intensified, guiding their path. As they advanced, Jason's senses heightened. Every shadow seemed to stretch, every whisper of wind carried a warning. In a narrow chamber, the group halted. The air was thick with tension. Tal stepped forward, raising his hand. "Here lies the first test. The Nexus will reveal truths. Some you want to see, others you do not." He turned toward Jason and Lyra, voice low but firm. "Are you ready to face what awaits?" Jason glanced at Lyra, whose steady gaze gave him strength. "We are," they said in unison. The chamber shifted suddenly. Walls dissolved into light, revealing visions that played out like scenes from a dream. Jason saw himself, but altered. In one vision, he was alone, lost in darkness. In another, he wielded the crystal's power, but his eyes burned with ruthless ambition. Lyra gasped, clutching his arm. "The Nexus tests our souls. It shows who we truly are." Jason felt a cold hand grip his heart. Could he resist the temptation? Could he keep his humanity? Suddenly the visions faded, replaced by a harsh voice. "Tal's ambition threatens us all," the voice warned. "The crystal's power must not fall into the wrong hands." Jason spun around to find a figure cloaked in shadows. "Who are you?" he demanded. The figure stepped forward, revealing a young woman with fierce eyes. "I am Kayla, a guardian of the Nexus's true legacy," she said, "and I have come to help you." Kayla explained that the Nexus was more than a place. It was a living entity that judged all who entered. Tal seeks to use the crystal to control the Nexus, bending its power to his will, she said. If he succeeds, the balance will be shattered, and destruction will follow. Jason's mind reeled. The enemy was not just outside, but within. "We have to stop him," Lyra said. Kayla nodded. "But first, you must awaken the strength within. Yourselves." Jason looked at the crystal, its light steady now as if waiting. He felt a surge of determination. "No matter the shadows among us, we will protect the secret." Lyra placed her hand on his shoulder. Together, as they prepared to move forward, Jason knew the hardest trials lay ahead. The journey to the Nexus would test their trust, their resolve, and their very souls. But he was ready for humanity, for the secret, for everything. Cliffhanger. From the darkness a whisper echoed. "The shadow walks among you. Choose carefully whom you trust." Jason's eyes darted to Commander Tal, who stood silently, a faint, unreadable smile curling his lips. The battle for the crystal and the future was just beginning. The fracture of trust Jason's gaze locked on Commander Tal's calm demeanor, but beneath that facade, a storm was brewing. The warning lingered in his mind like a ghost. "The shadow walks among you." The words made his skin crawl, igniting a spark of doubt he couldn't shake. The Nexus chamber's light flickered subtly, casting long, wavering shadows on the walls. Around them, the vanguard soldiers adjusted their gear and weapons, unaware of the growing tension among the core group. Kayla's eyes never left Tal. "We cannot let him gain control," she said softly, her voice laced with urgency. Jason swallowed hard. "But how do we stop him if we don't know what he's truly planning?" Kayla stepped closer, lowering her voice. "The Nexus reveals truths, yes, but it also feeds on fear and ambition. Tal's desire for power has already begun to corrupt the bond between us." Lyra's face hardened. "We need a plan, one that doesn't rely on blind trust." Jason nodded. "We watch, we wait, and we act when the moment is right." The group descended deeper into the Nexus, passing through twisting corridors that hummed with ancient energy. Every step seemed heavier, as if the air itself was charged with expectation. Suddenly, the path opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows. At its center floated an orb of pure light, the heart of the Nexus pulsing in rhythm with the crystal. Tal approached it with reverence, his fingers reaching out to brush its surface. Jason's breath caught. He could see the hunger in Tal's eyes, a hunger that went beyond duty or protection. Kayla stepped forward. The crystal and the orb are linked. Control one, and you influence the other. Tal turned slowly, a chilling smile on his lips. And I intend to ensure that power is in the hands of those capable of wielding it. Jason stepped forward. Power without responsibility destroys everything. You don't understand what you're playing with. Tal's smile faded. I understand perfectly. This world, this galaxy, they need order. And sometimes, order requires sacrifice. A sudden tremor shook the chamber. The orb flickered wildly, and shadows danced at the edges of the room. Jason instinctively moved closer to Lyra and Kayla, their presence anchoring him. The orb's light exploded in a blinding flash, and when vision returned, a figure stood between them, cloaked in darkness, but unmistakably human. Who's there? Tal demanded, drawing his weapon. The figure stepped forward, lowering the hood to reveal a familiar face. Jason gasped. Eli, the scientist they thought was lost. In the early days of the mission, looked worn but determined. I never left, he said quietly. I've been watching, waiting for the right moment. Jason's mind reeled. Eli had been presumed dead, lost to the wilderness during the initial contact with the alien species. How? Jason whispered. Eli glanced at the orb. The Nexus doesn't just test souls, it changes them. I was trapped here, but I learned its secrets, and I've seen what Tal intends to do. Tal's expression darkened. You're a ghost from the past. Leave before you complicate things further. Eli shook his head. No, I'm here to stop you. Tal raised his weapon, but Kayla moved swiftly, placing herself between them. Violence here only strengthens the Nexus's hold, she warned. Jason's heart pounded. The fractured group was on the brink of collapse. Eli, Jason said cautiously, what have you learned? Eli's eyes gleamed with urgency. The Nexus responds to the crystal's energy, yes, but it also feeds on emotional bonds. Trust, betrayal, fear, hope. If Tal breaks those bonds, the Nexus will become unstable and its power will spiral out of control. Lyra frowned. So, we have to keep our unity, even if it means hiding the truth? Jason shook his head. No, we have to expose Tal before he fractures us completely. Suddenly an alarm blared. The chamber's walls began to shift, closing in slowly. We're trapped, Kayla said. Tal triggered a defense protocol. Tal's eyes flashed with cold calculation. If you want the crystal, you'll have to face the Nexus's wrath. Jason grabbed Lyra's hand. We can't let this end here. Eli nodded. Follow me, there's a hidden passage. It's our only escape. They sprinted through the narrowing corridor, the walls closing like jaws behind them. Jason's lungs burned, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Just as they reached the passage, a deafening roar echoed behind them. A massive shadow emerged from the darkness, a beast unlike any Jason had seen before, its form shifting and flickering. Like a living nightmare, Lyra gasped. The hunters, they found us. The beast lunged. Jason raised the crystal's case, and a brilliant light erupted, pushing the creature back. The team hurried through the passage, collapsing onto a ledge overlooking a vast cavern filled with glowing crystals. Kayla pointed toward a structure at the cavern's center, an ancient control terminal pulsing with energy. This is where we can stabilize the Nexus, if we can access it. Tal appeared behind them, weapon drawn. You can't stop me, he said coldly. This power belongs to those who can wield it. Jason squared his shoulders. Power belongs to those who protect, not dominate. A fierce battle erupted, not just of weapons, but of wills. The Nexus responded to their emotions, the cavern lighting up with pulses of energy, reflecting their inner turmoil. Jason struggled to keep his fear and anger in check, knowing that losing control could doom them all. Kayla accessed the control terminal, her fingers flying over the ancient interface. "Almost there," she muttered. "We can seal the Nexus's instability." Tal charged, but Eli intercepted him, sacrificing himself to buy Kayla time. Jason watched helplessly as Eli fell, but Kayla's work succeeded. The Nexus's pulse steadied, and the cavern calmed. Tal, defeated but not destroyed, retreated into the shadows, vowing revenge. Jason looked around at the battered group. "We survived, but the fight isn't over." Lyra squeezed his hand. "We're stronger together. We'll protect the secret and humanity, no matter what." As they emerged from the Nexus, dawn broke over the alien forest. Jason felt a deep resolve settle within him. The crystals, light was a beacon, not of power but of hope, and no shadow, no matter how dark, could extinguish that light. Cliffhanger, far above the forest canopy, a silent watcher observed their escape, eyes gleaming with an unknown purpose. "The true test begins now," a voice whispered in the wind. "The light, beyond the shadows." The dawn was thin and fragile over the alien forest, the sunlight filtering in pale shafts through towering trees whose leaves shimmered faintly with iridescence. Jason stood at the edge of the clearing, the Nexus crystal in his palm, its soft glow steady and warm like a heartbeat. Behind him, the others stirred. Lyra, Kayla, and the remaining Vanguard soldiers, bruised but alive. The Nexus's instability had been halted for now. But Jason knew that true peace had yet to be won. The voice on the wind haunted him still. The true test begins now. What had Eli's sacrifice truly bought them, and what greater threat lurked watching from the shadows? They moved cautiously, back toward the settlement, but the forest seemed different now, alive in ways they had not understood before. Lyra broke the silence. "Do you think Tal's gone for good?" Jason shook his head. "No, that shadow is deeper than him. The Nexus is ancient. It feeds on power, but also on fear and division. If we don't learn how to unite, it will consume everything." Kayla's gaze hardened. "We need to tell the others. Humanity must be prepared." Jason's thoughts drifted to the messages Eli had left behind, data fragments hinting at the true origin of the Nexus crystal. It wasn't just a power source, it was a key, a test, and a warning. That night, Jason sat by a flickering fire in the settlement's makeshift camp. The crystal lay beside him, humming softly. Lyra settled close, her eyes reflecting both the firelight and something deeper, hope mixed with fear. "Jason," she said quietly, "what if the Nexus was never meant to be controlled? What if it's a lesson from someone or something?" Jason nodded slowly. "I've thought the same. Maybe it was left here by an ancient civilization, a guardian of sorts, a test to see if those who find it could rise above greed and fear." Kayla joined them, her expression grim. "If that's true, then what we faced wasn't just a battle for power, it was a battle for the soul of our species." The following days were tense. News of their survival spread quietly. The team worked tirelessly to decipher Eli's data, uncovering more of the Nexus's history and its connection to a vast galactic network. But with every answer came more questions. Why had the Nexus chosen Earth? What did the Watchers want? And what part would humanity play in this cosmic struggle? Then came the message, a transmission. Barely a whisper across the stars. A voice, ancient and calm, speaking directly to Jason and his team. "You have passed the first trial, but the journey has only begun. The light you carry must be shared or it will fade. Unity is your strength. Remember this, for shadows lurk beyond even the stars, you know." Jason's fingers tightened around the crystal. "This is bigger than us," he said. "We're not just fighting for survival. We're the keepers of a legacy." Weeks turned to months. The settlement grew, people rallied to the cause, and the story of the Nexus crystal became a symbol, not of fear, but of hope. Jason stood once more at the edge of the alien forest, now a leader, a guardian. Beside him, Lyra, Kayla, and a new generation of explorers prepared for what lay ahead. The shadows had not disappeared. They never would, but neither had the light, and then on a night when the twin moons hung low and silver, a faint glow appeared in the sky. A signal. A new dawn was coming, and humanity would face it together. Lesson: the true power lies not in dominion or control, but in unity, trust, and courage. The greatest challenge is not the unknown beyond the stars, but the shadows within ourselves. To survive and thrive, we must learn to light the darkness together. End of story.